Two. So, good morning, Mr. Fadel.
Good morning, Chance. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hope that you're ready for this interview. And so the name of the program is Talking Valves, and it's going to be, um, I don't know, a lot of different topics with valves. I love talking about valves. I could talk about valves all day, as some people who know me probably wish I don't talk about it all day, or about anything else that I talk about all day. But here I allow the interviewee to speak, and I will just prompt you with questions, and we're going to learn about valve. I don't like to use the word valve expert, but you're more of an expert than me. You have more experience. Experienced valve agent.
Professionals.
Professional. Thank you. That's a good one right there. So, without further ado, please let everyone know who you are and a little about your background.
Well, I'm Doug Fadel. I currently work for the George Booth Company in Indiana, as their valve specialist or valve champion, as they call me. Um, I have a background in industrial distribution with a Bachelor of Science degree from Clarkson University in Potsdam, New York. I've worked in the industrial sales business my entire career. I started out with a company in Buffalo, New York, and had very little in the way of valve sales. But eventually, over a couple of job changes, I wound up in the valve industry, and I've been there for the last 40 years. So
So that is a perfect
I,
segue into what I feel is the most interesting question that I always ask people. And I really love this topic because, as you know, there is no quote unquote valve university. There is no clear path to our industry. And so everyone who's been in it forever, so to speak, quote unquote, it's interesting to know how did they get started. So my next question is, how did you get roped into our wonderful industry?
well, I had a very minor period of time when I worked in Buffalo, New York, where I was selling Teflon products and was involved with some Teflon line valves by a couple of different manufacturers. But then I transitioned to a Swedish company that made industrial rubber products. And uh, after a couple of years, I realized that wasn't where I wanted to be. And I had a friend who had gone to work for the Zomax Corporation in Cincinnati. And we had stayed in touch. And I sent him my resume, and I took a couple of interviews. And I was offered a position as a regional sales manager in the Chicago market. So that was my first full-time valve gig or employment. Uh, and when working with Zomax, I was fortunate enough to be able to be trained in the factory on how the valves were assembled and made. I remember how amazed I was the first time I actually got out in the field and saw the valves after they've been in service, and realized they didn't look at all like the ones in the factory. So that kind of opened my eyes to the fact that the valve industry isn't just how is the valve made or what does it look like. It's where is it applied and what can happen to it in the field. So uh, having learned that, I realized that I needed to understand not only the valves, but the applications where the valves were used if I was going to succeed in the industry. So I kind of made a study of that over the next 6 years while I worked for Zomax.
Well, funny that you would mention study because that's another segue. It's almost like you're being prompted, which he's not. But hey, before I get into that though, what year was that you started with Zomox?
I started with Zomax in 1979. I remember it because that's the year I got
1979.
married. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you started a couple of lifelong endeavors in 1979.
Yes,
I
I did.
was not thinking about valves in 1979, but that's okay.
A lot of the people I work with weren't born in 1979.
Sadly, I was, but I was not old enough to be worried about that kind of stuff yet. Um, that's great, and Zomax, a great company, of course. I knew valves years before the crane company, but to get into the industry for real, I've always given thanks to crane valves. And hey, if I'm going to give a plug, there's a retired guy out there named John Stewart, and I will be forever grateful to John Stewart. So we go on to the segue portion of you mentioned about studying. So, next question, which a lot of people ask, and I always find that, boy, this is such an important topic for our industry. As my affiliation with Valve World, they're very focused on valve education. So valve education is a huge thing. We have a lot of people with great minds that have seen so much, like yourself, in valves with so much since '79. How did you learn about valves? How did you get educated into valves? What was your path once you were in the industry?
Well, I worked for Zomax for 6 years, and they made they were known best for the Teflon plug valves, but they were also making Teflon lined butterfly valves and check valves. So I learned some different valves there. But I think I really expanded my valve knowledge when I went to work for a valve automation specialty distributor by the name of ValveX in Cincinnati, where we represented several different companies. And over the years, as we added product lines, I quickly learned which of the factory salespeople were worth spending time with and which ones were just taking up my time. And so I took advantage of listening to valve presentations by the valve sales guys that I felt were really good. And I also had a habit of taking catalogs home at night and studying catalogs. Not that everything that you need to know is in a catalog, but there's a lot more in the valve catalogs than somebody would generally tell you in a presentation. So by doing that, it also created questions which I could ask of the manufacturers. And over time, I just increased my knowledge through experience. And I think really in this industry, there is no book to read. There's no school to go to learn about valves. So it's pretty much on the job training. And you've got to get your nose bloodied a few times and make a few mistakes before you realize what you can and cannot do when working with customers with regards to valves.
Of course, I have to give a plug to Valve World. There is a course that you can take, and I will put that in the links below this video. I mean, I have to. It's only fair.
Well, when I was learning that exist.
That's right. You would have been lucky to have come from the past into the future so that you could have just think of the kickstart to your career. It would have been you would have traveled to now and took the Valve World course and then went back into time with all of that knowledge. These are very well placed plugs for Valve World.
Well, that's okay.
Continuing
I
on.
think the initial course is great, and I currently conduct some training at our facility in Chicago, which we offer to the industry in the Chicago market. And do 2 valve training courses up there. But the truth of the matter is that you can take courses and you'll retain a certain amount of the knowledge, but the stuff that really sticks in your head is the stuff you learn through repetition and over time, I think.
Nothing can replace time. Nothing. Absolutely agree on that one. And nice plug for yourself and for the Chicago market. I'm sure someone in the Chicago market's going to eventually watch this video. And hey, you want to take him up on that offer, give him a call. Continuing, what is the best thing about working in our industry for you? What has been that one thing that you say, man, I love my job because whatever? What is that for you?
You know, there's a show on one of the channels called How Is It Made?
Hmm.
And I think the one thing I enjoy the most is that valves are used in all kinds of industries: oil and gas, power, chemical trusts, refining, pharmaceuticals, on and on. So the thing that really charges my batteries is solving application problems in different industries, seeing how our valves are used to produce other products. For example, I was at a party Friday night, and the lady burned some Fireball whiskey, and I was telling him just sold 300 valves into the company that makes Fireball whiskey. So thank you for drinking it because you're helping my valve sales. So, but
Nice.
it goes on and on. I mean, I've seen so many different neat applications, and it takes you into other products that we don't sell, but our valves are used to make them, and people don't realize that those products are made or how they're made. It's just like, you know, you go to the store, buy it, and we have it, and they have no idea what goes into making that, or if they're taking a medicine, they have no idea what goes into the medicine and what requirements the industry has for producing those products.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's
absolutely.
that's an eye.
Okay. So speaking of applications, can you tell us about an application that you were able to solve in all these years in valves that sticks to you this day? You know, where you still say, "Man, I'll never forget that time when I solved X or Y." And what's the first application or one that you think that comes to mind that you say, "Wow, we had this application and it just I'll never forget."
Well, I had one for a local aircraft engine manufacturer on their test cells where they wanted to use 36-inch and 24-inch triple offset butterfly valve um, in their test cell system. But they had a requirement that these valves had to operate very, very fast. And with traditional electric or pneumatic actuators, I couldn't get the speed that was required from those valves. So we took a leap of faith and worked with another company that sold servo motors, and teamed it up with another company they represented that made gearboxes. And we mounted gearboxes on the valves and then drove the gearboxes, servo motors, very quickly, very smooth. It was an incredible application, and we had some bugs along the ways, nothing related to the technology we were using, just mechanical issues. But once we got it solved, it was a very unique and satisfying installation.
Hmm. There's so many, you know, and everybody has their favorites, right? That is interesting. That you would have a gear and it would go close that fast with the gear. I would think that I would have thought otherwise. I would have thought, you know, we could put some quick exhausts on the actuator or something. How fast were you able to get it to close with the gear?
3 seconds.
3 seconds. So a 36-inch triple offset closing in 3 seconds?
Smoothly.
Smoothly with the gear. Yeah. No slamming, you mean. Having it
Yep.
close smoothly and quick. Very interesting.
And it was 3 to 5 seconds in that range.
So, before we wrap up, I have a question that I think is important for everyone, especially young people that don't really know about valves, or maybe they're seeing that we have openings in our industry, which, if there's openings in our industry, you know, my personal opinion, jump on it, because it's just such a great life to work in valves. You can also make good money. That should be mentioned, I think. So, what would you say to young people who maybe have seen that there's an opening somewhere in this industry, don't really know anything about it? But what would you say to them about our industry?
Say that it's an industry that will take you into very interesting opportunities. Um, as I look at various valves that have been obsoleted over the years through technology. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't figured out a way that they can digitally shut off a pipeline without some mechanical device in the line to close it and to control flows. And so while the top works of the valve certainly have gotten more sophisticated, the basic valve itself improves over time, but never, I think, becomes obsolete. So it's an opportunity that could provide a lifetime's worth of interesting work. And there have been people that have made a lot of money in the valve industry. There's a lot of people that start their own companies and are creative. And there are people that just work in the industry and make a very good living. So it's a fairly stable industry, especially if you're in an area that crosses industries. In other words, if you're not strictly oil and gas, if you've got some chemical process or some power or some pharmaceutical, when one market's up, the other market may be down or vice versa, but it's generally a fairly stable industry.
Yeah. I
Today's world is challenging.
It is.
The supply chain today is difficult.
Oh, let's not get into that topic. That's a difficult one.
That's a different world. The pandemic has
it
turned the world on its ear.
everything.
But overall, I think it's a very stable industry.
Absolutely. It just makes it more challenging in today's time, but that's a whole nother topic. Well, I'd like to thank you for giving me the time to interview you, let people get to know a little bit more about Doug Fadel, who's been in the valve industry since 1979. That's another great thing about our industry. Truly, truly, you can work until you just don't want to anymore. And I'm not sure if there is an age for that. Sadly, it's due to health reasons that people finally might say, I'm gonna stop selling valves. It's just a passion and love that we all have, and we want to do it forever. So, how can people find out more about Doug Fadel and Georgie Booth Company?
Well, they can reach out on email at dfadel, F-A-D-E-L, at gebooth.com. They can look up the George Booth website and reach out to the company there. Those customers that are interested in training, we have worked out some with the state of Illinois to reimburse certain companies for sending their people for professional training. We can assist with that. I don't want to give all the details in this video, but if they reach out to us, we'll help them with that. And if there's any people struggling with applications, we're happy to assist with problem solving, because I think that's what I like most about the industry, is helping people solve their problems.
Well said. And absolutely, someone needs to take you up on that offer. I will put links under the video, how to get in touch with Doug and his company. And I would suggest, hey, if you're able to get the training from them and get reimbursed by the state, well, that's not a bad deal at all. Doug, I want to thank you for your time, and I wish you the best. Keep selling those valves.
I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to working with you again in the future.
All right. Thank you to Doug, Georgie Booth Company. I'm Chance Russo. This has been Adventures in Valves, I'm calling it. Everyone have a great day.